Hey, what's up, spooky fam? Today, this is a video that I've wanted to make for quite some time. This is my ranking of the ABCs of Death, all of the shorts, all of the segments in the movie, all 26 of them. I'm going to be ranking from worst to best. You guys might be surprised at my order here, but if you've seen this movie, please let me know what your ranking is, what your favorite ones are. Alex had never seen these movies before we watched them, and it made me really excited to, I don't know, get back into the world of ABCs of Death, because I forgot all about 2.5 and then I remembered it instantly when we watched it. So I'm gonna rank those two as well. But before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more. Check out all of my links down below if you would like to support the channel any further or see any more of me. See the podcast, we just uploaded a new episode. So, the ABCs of Death is a 2-hour and 10-minute anthology consisting of 26 shorts. But before we talk about any of those, we have to talk about Sheila Kearns. You guys might be wondering, who is Sheila Kearns? Well, she is the kind of people that I want to hang out with. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and read this to you guys. After showing the film to a group of high school Spanish students, former Ohio substitute teacher Sheila Kearns was found guilty of 4 counts of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. That just feels like something I would do. I feel like if I was a teacher, I'd be like, hey guys, you wanna watch ABCs of Death? She was probably like, here, let me just teach you the ABCs the wrong way. But anyways, as of Thursday, January 16th, 2015, Kearns was convicted, and on March 5th, 2015, she was sentenced to 90 days in jail and probation for 3 years. All of her showing this movie to minors in school. So, I mean, it's pretty extreme. Some of the shorts are definitely better than the others. Let's get off, oh god. Crank down. Oh my god. Okay, let's start off with my worst ranking, which is number 26. Rin, that's what we're not gonna do today. Okay, anyways, now that Rin has left the building, let's start off with my worst rated, and this is because this one is, speaking of cats, this one is incredibly triggering to me to the point where I have to look away. This is P is for Pressure. This is essentially about a sex worker who has to take care of her 3 children, but her boyfriend takes all of her savings and she has to go to some extreme measures to provide for her children. And I mean, props to her, because she ends up, trigger warning for those of you who are sensitive to things like this, because I have 5 cats who I love with my entire heart and soul, and this just crushes my soul to think about it. She goes and agrees to make a crush porn video, which essentially means she steps on a cat's head for money. And I cannot watch that scene. That's why this is the lowest rated one for me. Animal violence, I usually don't have a problem with, but that one just feels too much. And before I should preface this by, the ABCs of Death, every director was given free reign with all of their movies and all of their shorts, so they could really do whatever they wanted. And I guess they really did whatever they wanted with this one. It was very sad for me, but in the end, she is seen, you know, she's done what she had to do what, you know, to get what she needed for her kids and give them a good life. But it's just very sad to watch, and I'm gonna stop talking about this one now because I'm going to get stressed out. Anyways, 25, my second lowest rated. The culprit of all of the noise, all of the playing around and things while I'm filming. Your heart is racing, you need to calm down. Anyways, number 25, Z is for Zetsumetsu, or extinction, not execution. Okay, so no, we're not doing this. Out. Fuck. Number 25, as I said, a mysterious man named Dr. Strangelove is shown the positive aspects of American culture and how it all relates to Japan. All while imagery is shown of rice and sushi and a topless woman with a Nazi hat, a giant penis, and naked people wearing hats resembling bombs that say big boy on them. So this one's a lot. This one's a lot to digest. Dr. Strangelove stands up and shouts, "My emperor is standing," as his penis explodes fried rice. Like I said, this one's a lot to take in, and this is why it's my second lowest rated. Okay, so number 24 is another one which made me feel uncomfortable for animal violence. This is D is for dog fight. So this one, it took me a couple watches to get the full story of this one because there's no, like, it's nonverbal. So a man enters a dog, my cats are fighting, and how fitting. We're not going to do this, thank you. Anyways, a man enters a dog fighting ring wearing a dog tag that says buddy on it, and he is introduced to a dog that he will be fighting that's quite aggressive, and with his owner. During the fight, the dog bites the man on the neck, and as that happens, the man yells buddy, and it turns out to be his dog, and the camera kind of pans around and you see a lost dog poster, and that shows that it's his dog. So anyways, the dog sides, I should say this is full spoilers, the dog sides with the man he was fighting, and they both kill the handler that had Buddy to begin with. So I don't know, this one has a lot of violence, a lot of man on dog violence, even though there's like a redemption story in the end and it gets like resolved, still a lot of man on dog violence. Not a fan of it. Okay, so number 23 is is for exterminate, and I don't know, this one just didn't sit right with me. There's a spider one in the ABCs of Death 2.5 that I think is more well done than this one, but this one is about a man who attempts to kill a spider that keeps evading him. He cannot kill it for the life of him, but Bean he ends up getting bit by this spider, and after a week of hanging around with bug bites, he ends up killing the spider, but tiny baby spiders come out of his ears. And I mean, yeah, this one is scary if you're not into spiders, but I just wasn't a fan of this one. Number 22, G is for gravity. I feel like I should have rated this higher in hindsight, but I don't know, still wasn't a fan of this one. And I'll tell them why. So I'm gonna tell you the synopsis of this, but I didn't realize that in the beginning, when the man goes out on the surfboard, he goes out with rocks, intending to commit suicide. So this one is entirely shot in POV, which I think is cool, but a couple of them are. So a man drives up to a beach with a surfboard and a bag of rocks and goes out into the water, and with the rocks he ends up drowning himself and leaving the surfboard to float, and then it just ends with G is for gravity. And I didn't realize the rocks were there when I first saw this. So thinking about it, I feel like it should be rated a couple spots higher, but I'm just gonna go with my rating for now. Number 21 is one that's probably popular with some people, but I absolutely hate this one. It's O is for orgasm, and it's not that I hate this one, I hate it. It's so pretentious. It's so pretentious. It's just a series of abstract visuals and scenes to emulate sex and an orgasm and being intense and intimate with someone, but it's so pretentious with the bubbles. What? Get out of here. I don't like that one. Okay, moving on to another one that I have to read the entire synopsis to you for, because this is another one that's a lot to digest, literally, and a lot to take in. literally. So this one is F is for fart. And while I find farts always entertaining and always funny, this one's horrific. A schoolgirl named Yoshi is in love and obsessed with her teacher, Yumi. One day, a deadly gas breaks from the ground and kills anyone who inhales it. Yoshi and Yumi escape into a building where Yoshi wishes to die smelling Yumi's farts. Now, I'm not gonna spoil how this gets here because it's a little cringy, but I want you to know that the beginning of this is very cringy. Anyways, Yumi farts into Yoshi's face, and she is transported to a gas-filled dimension where she and Yumi can tongue kiss forever. It's only rated that high because it's funny. It's a lot. It's a lot to watch. It's a lot to take in, and I don't necessarily, this is not one that I would recommend. I go out of my way to recommend Z is for Zygote, and the Sisters one, T is for torture porn. I go out of my way to recommend those. I would never go out of my way to recommend this. Okay, moving on to C is for Cycle. This is a time loop one, and I am not a fan of time loop movies. There's really only a handful that I enjoy. Anyways, what I'm getting at is there's only a handful of time loop movies that I unpopular opinion, did not like Happy Death Day. If you guys remember my movie review from that, I still have to watch part 2, haven't done it yet. But just not a fan of time loop movies. So this one is about a man named Bruno who finds a puddle of blood in his backyard and initially ignores it. That night he hears a noise and checks on it but finds nothing. In the morning, his wife Alicia disappears and he finds a hole in the bushes. He is sucked in and realizes he's been sent back in time to the night he heard the sound, and he was the one who made it. In the morning, he sees himself get sucked into the hole, and he's killed by another Bruno, making the puddle of blood seen at the beginning. This initiated the time loop that Bruno was sucked into. And as you can tell, once again, that was a lot. That description was a lot. The movie, the short, is a lot. But that's a reason why I don't like time loop movies, because sometimes they're just redundant and repetitive, and sometimes they suck. They don't do anything transformative. And this one I didn't enjoy. Number 18 is K is for Klutz. This is a poop one for those of you who may be sensitive to poop. This is also a cartoon. So let me just put it to you just we're friends here. A woman shits at a party and the shit refuses to be flushed. Sometimes you have that problem, I guess. The shit starts squeaking as it inches towards her. After she seemingly flushes it, she continues to hear it squeak. As she looks around, the shit is now on the ceiling above her, and while she's on all fours, the shit propels down into her beehole. Once again, this is a lot to take in here. Literally. She falls down dead, and the shit comes out of her mouth. Well, the people at the party walk in and find her deceased. A lot. A little unnecessary. Another one that is also see, the ones that are a little bit harder to digest, the ones that are just kind of nonsense, the ones that are, you know, just comedic relief, or those ones are the ones that are later on in my list, that are kind of throwaway ones that I don't really care about. We're gonna get to the good ones soon, but right now we are on number 17. W is for WTF. And when this is, because they don't tell you what it is until it's over, and as soon as this one was over, I was like, what the fuck? And that's literally the last line of this little short. So John Schnepp, who is the director of this, is working on an animated short related to the letter W. His friends tell him to come to the conference room to watch the news. The TV show Zombie Clowns, A Puppet in Hell, Chemtrails, a warrior woman battling a giant walrus, and a flying baby monster, which was horrific. Whew. All the while, the newscaster babbles about the end of the war. John is decapitated and stabbed by a cartoon warlock as he shouts, "What the fuck?" as I said watching this short. So that was W is for WTF. I don't think this one needs any explanation. That baby did not like it. H, another World War II one. This is H is for hydroelectric diffusion. In a World War II setting populated by humanoid animals, Birdie the bulldog enters a strip club and is enamored by a fox woman. The fox turns out to be Birdie's nemesis, Frau Scheiße, who traps him in an electrified pool of water, as one does. Encouraged by the voice of Winston Churchill of all people, Birdie overcomes the odds and knocks Scheiße to the pool of water where she melts and then explodes. He then winks at the camera and the short ends. And I don't know, this is kind of a midway one because it's fun, it's stupid, it's weird, it's awkward. That is a midway, that is a very halfway point short. So we're gonna go all the way to the beginning for number 15. A is for apocalypse, and this one is a little bit jarring because the movie starts off with this one, and you end up seeing a woman bursting into her husband's room, and she proceeds to like just give this man the business. She beats him, stabs him, throws a boiling hot water on him, and then he asks why she did this, obviously. She reveals she's been poisoning him for some time, and that's why he's been in the bed. And she had to speed up the process because she's been watching the news and there wasn't enough time. Destruction is heard outside as the woman sits with her husband and waits for the end of the world. So the apocalypse is happening and she was just killing her husband off so that he didn't have to deal with it, I guess. Something or other, that's what it seems. But this is another very midway point. Even though it's at the beginning, the ones that are coming up are just a lot better than these. So this one I'm gonna give another trigger warning for. I feel like this movie, for a lot of people, will probably need a trigger warning for certain things. This one has to deal with sexual assault of young children. This is Y is for Young Blood at number 14, and I like this one because it's a good revenge story. A pedophilic janitor teaches a young boy he's been watching from afar to hunt deer, and it's implied that he assaults the boy, which is a little uncomfortable. Of course, it's uncomfortable, but you know, it's more implied than anything, so it's not that hard to take in. The janitor watches the boys play basketball and then ends up licking up their sweat, which was the worst part of probably the whole film altogether. Afterwards, the boy that was SA'd appears and in the gym and kills the janitor with the severed head of a deer, and that is a very satisfying moment. Number 13 is R is for removed, and this one is yucky. This one has really good body horror and it made me flinch a couple of times. A man is continually subjected to constant surgeries. His skin can produce full 35mm film. He's covered in bandages but adored by the public. They all want to touch his skin. His skin starts to produce less and less film and he escapes. He makes it to a train yard and crushes himself beneath a car after it rains blood. Very Evil Dead-esque, but I don't know. Something about this one, just the way that they cut the skin off, it makes my I want to throw up. It's fucking gross. So this one is, I'm a fan of the claymation ones. The claymation, they're very creative, they're fun, and you can really get away with a lot with claymation because it doesn't feel real, obviously, it's clay. So this one is T is for toilet, and this one is essentially about a child who is scared to use the toilet, and he has a horrific nightmare about the toilet coming alive, doing all of these just inhumane things to him and his family, and then his nightmare comes true in a very horrifying way. But I like the way that it was done in claymation, and it was pretty satisfying to watch. So T is for toilet is number 12. Number 11 is N is for nuptials, and this one is stupid. Like I said, I think the more comedic relief ones were later on in the list, but this one was funny and I like this one. So Shane is flirting with his girlfriend Anne using a new parrot that he bought. He then proposes and she accepts, but suddenly the parrot says, and I quote, "Don't be scared, Joy, my girlfriend won't know," among other very off the rails things. Things that you would never expect a parrot to ever say. Anne says, "Damn you, Shane," and then stabs him to death, and that's the end of the short. And I think that is a good comedic relief one. That's still a little bit violent, but there's the comedic relief in there. So another one that is a lot to take in, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. It's rated so high because they decapitate a baby. So this one is called V for Vagitus, which is the cry of a newborn. In New Vancouver, AD 2035, women must get permission from the government to have children. Lainey, an officer, petitions to have one and finds out she's infertile. She has a robot partner named Nesbit, and together they hunt for mentals, which are people who have children illegally. They discover a family which Nesbit kills and beheads the baby. As I said, this is why it's rated so high, because they show the baby getting just murked. The baby's head turned out to be alive. Lainey's boss enters to criticize her for taking sympathy on the family, but the baby's head turned out to be alive and possessing psychic power as it blows up Lainey's boss's head. The baby's dying father tells Lainey she is the mother now. So this one's graphic and has a pretty interesting like sci-fi futuresque story. I enjoyed it. Okay, so number 9 is one because it's rated in the top 10 for the meme. This is J is for Jedi Geki, which is samurai movie. A samurai prepares to be decapitated. However, before it happens, he starts making impossible facial expressions. You guys have probably more than likely seen the face. A man off screen instructs the executioner to hurry, but the samurai is performing seppuku already. Which is, if you guys don't know, it's where you willingly stab yourself in the stomach and, you know, cut all the way across to be gone. The executioner beheads him and starts laughing at the things that transpired beforehand because he wasn't gonna cave and let him know that he was funny, you know? I wouldn't either. But I think that was a funny one. That's another one that was good comedic relief because it's the meme. We have all seen that face. There's that certain face. We've all seen it. That's a good one. So I is for ingrown is number 8. This one is also probably a little hard to digest. So trigger warnings for this one. This has domestic abuse in it. A man has his wife bound and gagged in the bathtub. As she struggles to break free, the man injects her with motor oil. Disgusting. She begins to scratch violently and she bleeds and vomits before lying lifelessly in the tub. The woman's voice talks down to her husband in a monologue directed at him afterwards. So this one is just really violent, but I feel like it has the payoff at the end. So trigger warning for those of you who are sensitive to things like domestic violence or vomit, because there is that in that too. So moving on. So this one is definitely, I would say from here on out, these are my favorites. Number 7, S is for speed. Kind of hit home for me a little bit. So this one has to deal with it. I'm gonna just give trigger warnings from now on. This one is drug addiction and overdosing. There's 2 girls, Roxanne and Lily. Roxanne kidnaps Lily from an abandoned outpost in the desert, and this all seems really cheesy and like very B-movie, but it gets somewhere. In the desert while being chased by an undefeatable hooded man. After putting Lulu in the trunk of the car, Roxanne tries to plead with the man as he admits she gave him a run for his money. She takes his hand and we end up seeing her dead of an overdose. The man was death. Lulu wakes up, takes Roxanne's drugs, and hallucinates being in the desert. So we can only guess what happens from there, but that one is just really sad and hits home, and that's why it's number 7. So number 6. B is for Bigfoot. I'm only going off the pronunciation that I can remember because this is my best friend's dog's name. Xochitl cannot go to sleep. Xochitl? Xochitl? Xochitl cannot go to sleep. Her babysitters, Dolce and Eric, fabricate a story about Bigfoot coming at night to take kids that don't go to sleep. And if they're not sleeping, they have to be in bed, at least counting sheep with their eyes closed. A mysterious homeless man comes into the house, kills Dolce and Eric, and the man enters Xochitl's room but leaves as she's under the covers counting sheep. So that one is kind of ambiguous, and I think it's really funny how it's just left off as Bigfoot. She's been told about Bigfoot, but it's just a homeless murderer. So there we go. Okay, so we're getting into the top 5, and these might be controversial. You might hate these, but number 5 is X is for XXL, and I love this one. And I love it for a few reasons, because as someone who has always had issues with my body, I have at times felt like I just wanted to cut it off, and this one really does that. It really does. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say a beautiful plus size woman wanders the streets of France as people taunt her relentlessly as she's walking down the street. She is also taunted by images of thin women in advertisements all around her. She goes home, she binge eats, and using a variety of sharp objects, she starts to cut the fat off her body. She walks out of the bathtub in a skeletal state. She poses briefly and bleeds to death. And I think this one is just a really important watch. I think it is like it's sad, but it hits home too. Okay, number 4 is a lot. And I'm gonna try and condense this because I don't really want to talk about this subject matter. There's a lot of just inappropriate things going on in this one, so major warnings for this one. Number 4, L is for libido. I even wrote down trigger warning just in case, because I don't know. This one also has a scene of a child being in major harm and they don't shy away from it, so Beans here to give you a warning too. Okay. A man awakens in a chair strapped in with another man next to him in the same position. They are forced to crank down. If you watch Workaholics, this is a perfect chance for me to use the phrase crank down. Anyways, they are forced to crank down to a series of very inappropriate, increasingly disturbing acts. The last one to finish gets impaled rectally, and that's hard to watch too. The woman running the show and one of the victims, we'll call it, accidentally get impaled. And the original guy, the OG man who's lasted through things I don't even want to talk about, well, he ends up being taken as part of the next act, and I don't want to really ruin this part for you guys because it's if you guys like gore, if you like body horror, if you like things like that, this one involves a chainsaw and it's really fun, but this one is a lot altogether. And it's kind of disturbing. And the weirdo from VHS, the 3rd segment in VHS 2, when they go to the culty church, maybe I should talk about that segment coming up in Cult Horror Movie Week. Anyways, he's in it, and obviously he's a fucking sicko, so we're gonna leave that one there. Moving on to my 3rd spot, M is for miscarriage. And this one is directed by Ty West. And Ty West, you guys are gonna hear me talk a lot about Ty West in the upcoming months. For Cult Horror Movie Month, I'm going to be talking about The Sacrament, directed by Ty West, first and foremost. That is the first movie we're talking about. And then for Body Horror, no, I'm lying to you. For Babysitter Month, we're going to be talking about The House of the Devil, and that's another Ty West movie. So M is for Miscarriage. It's about a woman who tries to unclog her toilet. Well, she on the hunt for a plunger, okay? We'll just say she's on the hunt for a plunger. Very short, we come back, she's had a miscarriage in the toilet, and she just kind of looks like, oh, yikes, let me just plunge it, and that's the end. I like this one. I think it's a funny, not funny, well, yeah, it's a more comedic take on a tragic experience, and that's why I like this one. So number two, my number two pick is Q is for Quack. This one stars the director of this, the filmmaker Adam Wingard, who is also one of the filmmakers in VHS 2. He is the first, if you guys, I forget what that one's called off the top of my head, but it's the, I don't remember the segment names, I just know where they place. The first segment in VHS 2 where the guy gets the camera in his eye, that's Adam Wingard. So he directed and stars in this short. So essentially, him and the guy that he's working with, they want to make an actual snuff film. They're struggling to find a concept, but that comes to mind, and they thought the perfect thing, Q is for Quack, will kill a duck. No problem. They go out into the middle of nowhere with a film, like a camera guy, and they end up accidentally killing themselves instead, and the camera guy gets off scot-free, and we're left seeing the duck. This one is hilarious, and another, there's only 3 in my top 10 that were comedic relief, but they're still a little disturbing, and I mean, they're funny, they're good, they're good uses of comedic relief, and I think that one is a really funny one to have for my second best in this one. But my best one comes from the boy Ben Wheatley. This is U is for Unearthed. My number one pick is U is for Unearthed by Ben Wheatley. It's a vampire one. We had a little bit of a lack of vampires throughout the ABCs of Death, so it was really nice to see that, especially coming from Ben Wheatley. And this short had the 2 leads from Kill List, which was really exciting to see. You guys are gonna see those 2 in my intro for Cult Horror Movie Week. But this is another point of view shot film. This is about a vampire that rises out of his coffin, and a small mob attempts to sedate and kill it. The vampire flees, stopping to feed on a passing woman before being taken down by a flaming arrow and knocked unconscious. The vampire awakens as a prisoner of the mob who has its teeth pulled. The vampire itself is staked, and its head is cut off as it turns and stares at the killers. I like this one so much because when their teeth being pulled is one of my biggest no-nos in movies. I'm usually good with everything. It's just teeth, fingernails, and eyeballs. I really have a hard time with those kind of traumas because I don't know, I just don't want to feel, I don't want to ever feel those things happen to me. So I have a hard time with that. This one shows the fangs of the vampire being removed from POV. So you're watching it from the person it's happening to, not, you know what I mean? So like, it feels like so much more, like, because you're feeling him pull the teeth out and the resistance, and it's good. It's shot, it's so good. Ben Wheatley's amazing. I could talk about that one for a long time, but I really enjoyed U is for Unearthed. I'm really happy that a vampire pick was my number 1. I thought this was so good. I love the ABCs of Death. Even the shittier ones, I initially thought I was gonna want to skip through them, but I'm really happy that I didn't, because it was a really fun experience watching this with Alex for the first time and kind of forgetting things that were there and guessing the titles of things that I forgot about and ranking them and doing this video. So I'm really excited to come back with part 2. We have Cult Horror Movie Review Month coming from February 6th all the way to the 11th. Hope you're excited about that. I have some maybe non-traditional cult picks, but we'll talk about that. I am so happy we finally did this video. Please go ahead and leave me your, let's say, top 5 of these down below. Check out my links down below, and I will see you guys soon. Sayonara, Spooky fam.